My name is Jordy. I'm here to talk about managed Apple accounts. And before I do that, a small introduction for the people that don't know me. I'm 33 years old. I live in the Flemish part of Belgium, just on the French border. I do not speak any French. I'm the father of a 3-year-old little whirlwind. I get told he gets all his bad traits from me, so I guess it's all my fault. I'm a self-proclaimed foodie. I like to eat and drink. You can see that. I can currently feel that. I like to tinker with smart home stuff, which means that I break stuff, and then I'm happy that I can fix it. And as you can see on that picture, I'm not at all a jam fanboy. So, Apple accounts. Just to level me, who here has an Apple account? Everyone? Nice. And who here has a managed Apple account and actually uses it? Much less people. Okay, awesome. So, an Apple account really is your gateway into Apple services. You need it for the App Store, to use iCloud, to get access to that whole ecosystem. And forever, these have been personal Apple accounts, right? They belong to the actual individual. You could register them on your company domain, but IT really didn't have anything to do with that. And a couple of years ago, Apple introduced managed Apple IDs back then, primarily geared towards education. Nowadays, they're pretty relevant in both business and education. And it does the same thing. It's your access to those Apple services, but IT can do stuff like reset passwords, reset phone numbers, do access management to work. I'm gonna jump ahead a little bit in my presentation. Before you get started with managed Apple accounts, please know why you're doing it. It's not fun to do, trust me. But if you have a valid reason, you can't really escape it, right? So have a why, and just the bonus tip that I give everyone immediately is if you get access to Apple Business or Apple School Manager, or you add a new domain, lock it immediately. You can safely do that. It won't break anything. So I work at Lab9 Pro. We are the only Apple Premium partner in Belgium, which means that most of our employees access parts of Apple through Apple accounts. And Lab9 has been around for 30 years. Managed Apple accounts were another thing back then. So historically, we've always been using personal Apple accounts registered on the Lab9 domain. Now, I, as IT, could not help my end users. I could not reset their password. I could not reset the phone number. If somebody left, or worse, someone got fired, we were at the discretion of Apple to disable that account and revoke that access, which was a big problem for us. Additionally, since we are an Apple partner, a lot of our users have personal Apple devices that they still use to access corporate data. And our IT manager was pretty stubborn on introducing Zero Trust with conditional access, so all our devices needed to be managed one way or the other. So, managed Apple accounts. And I've been talking about a journey or a quest, if you want to. It's because it takes multiple steps to activate, right? In the past, it was a single switch. That was terrible. Now it takes multiple things that you need to do. I will go over every step. I'll tell you how to enable it. I'll tell you what the caveats are. And at the very end of my presentation, I'll share a QR code where you can get like the printout of these slides with some knowledge-based articles so you know what the things are you need to look for. So without further ado, step 1, verifying your domain. Very easy. Apple also kind of makes it mandatory now. They kind of push you towards it. So if you register a new Apple business tenant, you go into settings, and then you can click the domain settings, and there you can add a domain. Once you've added the domain, you see the verify button. Once you click it, you get a TXT record that you need to publish, and then you either wait patiently or quit the refresh button until it says verify. And in essence, this is everything that you need to get started with managed Apple accounts. As soon as your domain is verified, you can go to the People's tab, create an account, and it will work, given that it not exists already. No real caveats here, other than you can only verify the domain once in one Apple Business or Apple School Manager tenant. Take that in consideration if you are a multinational. So if you have a .com domain, you can only verify that once. Step 2, just as easy, locking the domain. Like I said, this one is really, I recommend for everyone. Once you have verified your domain, you have an extra button that says Manage. If you click that, you will see the domain management settings. There's a toggle there that says Lock Domain. And once you do that, it will prevent the creation of new personal Apple accounts on that domain. So from that point forward, any Apple account that you want to make needs to be created in Apple Business or Apple School Manager. It won't affect any existing personal Apple account, so you can safely do this. 2 caveats. Once you have locked the domain, you cannot unlock it. If you want it out of your tenant, you need to remove it. If you need to remove a domain from Apple Business or Apple School Manager, you will have to either delete the existing managed Apple accounts or change the domain name from them. And also not that important, if you get to step 4, which is federating with your identity provider, once you federate, it will automatically lock any future domain that's being added. That one was easy, right? All good? This one is the fun one. Capturing your domain, step 3. Apple released Apple Business last week, then they changed the name to account transfer. In Apple School Manager, it's still called domain capture, doesn't matter. If you click the Get Started with Account Transfer button, it will notify all existing personal Apple accounts on your domain that they either need to keep it as personal but rename it, or transfer it to a work account and make it managed. We will have a nice countdown timer of 30 days. And you have a list available for download. It's not extensive, so we had about 500 accounts at Lab9, 300 of which I knew were still active, and less than 100 showed up in that list. But once you press the button, this will probably be you for the next 30 days. This was me for much longer than 30 days. But anyway, let's move forward. This is the notification that your end users are getting. So they get a pop-up on their device, they get an email as well, indicating that they either need to keep the account as personal or transfer to a work account. Now, for us as an Apple partner, we had to transfer everyone to a work account without exception. For you, that'll probably be the other way around. Usually there aren't really valid reasons why somebody would have an Apple account on your business domain that is not for personal use until now. And if you have colleagues that ignore those 4 emails and those pop-ups and those notifications, after 30 days, Apple will automatically keep the account as personal and will automatically rename it. So it'll be something like account name - domain name at temporary.appleid.com. If that happens, your end user will get an additional email, so they can click that, they can go in, change the email address. If that email doesn't come, they can call AppleCare, and Apple will help them to rename the account. So, let's say that you want to transfer an account to a work account, so make it managed. There are some things that you need to be aware of. Any account with any balance on it cannot be transferred. So as soon as there is any money attached to that, it won't work. Any account with sign-in with Apple configured will not be able to transfer. Yes, you can actually go into the Apple account, go to the sign-in with Apple options, you can remove the websites, log out, log back in again, and the option will show, but by default, you won't see it. Family sharing, same thing. Recovery contacts, same thing. Accounts with health data attached to it will not be able to transfer. And some of those errors are quite visible. Like this one says, there is health data, please remove it. Others are less visible, as in you just don't have the option to transfer to a work account, and it's up to you to figure out why. So these are the most prevalent reasons. Once you actually do transfer to a work account, there are some other things that you need to keep in mind. So if you have any active subscription on that account, it will continue to work until the renewal date. And as soon as that renewal date comes, it will stop working. You have no option to renew the subscription. Any purchased apps and books will follow the account. They will not become VPP licenses. I guess that's a given. Any iCloud service that's not compatible with managed Apple accounts, Think about Apple Music, Apple TV, Apple Fitness, Apple Arcade, all the fun stuff will stop working immediately. And you really need to consider that all your personal data that's still in iCloud is now accessible by IT. Nobody will be stopping IT from resetting your password, phone number, and accessing your data. The whole migration thing requires iOS 18 or macOS 15.1. I think we all have valid reasons to be on 26.4, so it shouldn't be a problem. But that's it, right? That is in essence what the domain capture is. And I made it sound a lot worse in the beginning. But if you put it on a slide, it's actually pretty easy. Step 4 then, federating with your IDP. That really means if you enable this, that your login will flow through your identity provider. There's an easy button for Google Workspace and Microsoft Entra. Any IDP with OpenID Connect support will work. And let's show you how that looks. So if I go to account.apple.com and I log in, you will see that my login now flows through Microsoft 365. This Mac has platform single sign-on configured, so it won't even prompt me for a password or an authenticator. It will just let me through. And this is the login experience we want to work towards, right? This is really cool. And then the last step is provisioning accounts, and I haven't done that myself on our domain, but it in essence means enabling directory sync. So any user account that exists in your IDP will be available in Apple Business. If you make a change in the IDP, it will sync to Apple Business. If you delete an account in the IDP, it will be deactivated in Apple Business for 30 days, and then it will be removed. Why is that last one? If you are someone that accidentally deletes a user from your tenant, it will not delete their data, it will just deactivate the account. If you quickly recreate it, it will be available again. And that's it. That's really all we need to do. So what did we achieve now? I have management access over those Apple accounts, which means I can reset passwords, phone numbers, I can change the actual email address, I can deactivate accounts and remove them, right? That was our main goal, so mission accomplished. I have access management, so I can go in, I can disable iCloud features outright. I can limit them, for example, FaceTime and iMessage. I can limit to be internal only and not externally. And I can even configure which type of account works on our managed devices. What else did we achieve? Is account-driven user enrollment. I'm going to start the demo. So this is a personal iPhone logged in with a personal Apple account, and we will add a secondary work account to it. Whilst that video is playing, this will create a secondary partition on the iPhone. So I will have a corporate partition on there where I can push things to. I can apply configurations to, but I won't be able to see the personal data. I don't see the apps. I don't know if my colleague is using Tinder or not. I cannot do destructive commands like erasing their device. But for what I want to use it for, I need to install our ZTNA agent. I need to do a managed browser config. That's pretty much everything. So this is perfect for that. And you will see once we are through that login experience, there will be a pop-up showing asking to install Jamf Self-Service. This device is in Jamf. So it will install Self-Service, it will install Jamf Trust, which is our ZTNA agent, and then it will pretty much work as any other device for our end users, so they can go into Self-Service and download additional apps. That's that pop-up, and then it will appear right on the home screen. Here we go. Okay. Something else we can do with these are account-driven device enrollments. It's a little bit different. So if I'm on this Mac, I go to settings again, I go to the device management settings, and I log in with my work account. This will in fact do an enrollment, but it will be fully managed, right? This is good for devices that are organizationally owned, but they are not in Apple Business, for example. This replaces a profile-driven enrollment. Now, I get the question a lot, why do you see two sign-in pages here? That is by design. The first time I'm logging into the management interface, which in our case is Jamf. The second time I'm logging into the managed Apple account. So as you can see here, it will ask me for my authenticator. it will then show the Managed Apple Account page, and I will need to enter my password again. Once that's done, a message will be displayed indicating that this device will become fully managed. And once that's true, it will start downloading the MDM profile, the other profiles, Jamf self-service, the binary, everything, right? So this is a fully managed device, and in Jamf, it looks like any other device in my tenant. So a little side quest, how does this actually work? You need a managed Apple account, of course, that's why it's in my presentation. And it requires MDM support, but I think most MDMs now support some way of account-driven enrollments. To implement it, you can choose between two things. You can either host a JSON file on your web server, or the whole experience can be MDM-driven, but I think for the MDM-driven part, it's only compatible with Mozilla and Jamf. Don't quote me on that. But the JSON file is pretty easy, right? You just host it on your web server, and the content is pretty self-explanatory. You tell it which type of account-driven enrollment it needs to do, and you give it the management URL. That's it. If you can tinker around with your web hosting, you can actually serve a different JSON file to a certain type of devices. So as you can see the question mark URL behind me, it shows you the domain the user is using. It also shows you the family, so you can serve a BYOD JSON to iPhone and iPad, and do the other one for Macs, for example. Cool. So recommendations for a smoother transition. First and foremost, understand which accounts will be affected. You have that list in Apple Business Manager, or Apple Business, sorry. It's not extensive. We created an extension attribute in Jamf to just check which account is logged into the actual iCloud pane, so we can get that data out of that as well. As soon as we hit the domain capture button, we did a message trace and just got the full list of accounts, so we can see who would be affected and who wasn't. Communicate early and clearly. I think that's the most important part. Your end users need to know why this is happening, when it is happening, what they need to do, and what the consequences are of the choice that they make. I think we started 2 months in advance of sending out emails and publishing on our intranet up until the actual date of the capture. And then afterwards, we followed up with text messages, phone calls, and at the very end, we actually got in our car and drove to a couple of end users, VIP users, to ensure that they pressed the right button. So you might have to do some communication there. Understand the limitations of those Apple accounts. I'm not going to go over all the red crosses, there are quite a few, but the most important ones are at the bottom right. The App Store, iTunes Store, and Bookstore will not function. Two other fun ones in here. A managed Apple account cannot be used for sign-in to iCloud on Windows. It can also not be used for sign-in on an Apple TV. Trust me, you don't want to be the person that gets the phone call from the CEO in the evening that says he cannot watch his favorite Apple TV show anymore. So communicate that. And then identify which accounts actually need to transfer, right? Like I said, for us, that meant everyone needed to transfer to a work account. For you, that will probably be the other way around. But there are some accounts that you really always want to transfer. The APNS certificate holder is a good one. And if for some reason you don't want to transfer that account, know that you can call AppleCare or deployment support, and Apple can move the certificate from one account to another without you having to re-enroll all your devices. Developer accounts, also something you probably want to be managed. And again, know that the account holder can be transferred too, but that's a separate thing that they need to do. And then less relevant here in the EU, but probably more relevant in the US, any account with GSX access, so that's the repair portal from Apple, you want to keep that as managed as well. If you're wondering what that screenshot is, once we got all the data from our accounts, we started to mark which accounts were obsolete, people that already left the company, accounts that transferred without issue, accounts we were unsure of and we needed to check with someone, and then unfortunately also a couple people that actually had an issue, right? Last but not least, you really want to prepare for post-conversion support as well. If you enable federation, as easy as it might look for us, You might startle your end users, so you need to tell them, like, this is the new login flow. Make sure that they know that. Ensure that your help desk staff is ready to help with recovering automatically renamed accounts, etc. And again, make them understand the limitations and communicate those. Our transition is now almost a year behind us, and I still occasionally get a phone call from someone that says, I cannot do this, and the answer is 9 out of 10 times, it's because it's not compatible with a managed Apple account. So, should you do it? Locking the domain, yes, you can do that right now. You can open Apple Business in Chrome and just press the button. Capturing, if it solves an issue, right? To date, Apple doesn't really require it. It is getting more important. So, for example, if you enable the new built-in device management in Apple Business, you can scope to users, and that requires a managed Apple account. But other than that, it's not mandatory yet. But if used right, it can be very powerful. There's one last thing for me to say, and there's nobody from Apple in the room because they're doing a session in the other hall. But I needed a lot of help from Apple, and I've been asked to not elaborate on our experience as an Apple partner because it's not relevant for you as an end user. But we were very stuck and we needed a lot of help, so I kind of texted my whole address book, everyone I knew at Apple, like, my world is on fire, please help me. They helped, they solved the issues, everything was fine in the end, so for whoever from Apple is watching, hello and thank you for all the support, you know who you are. And with that, I think I'm very early, but my session is done, so I'm open for any questions, and I'll fast forward to this, so you can get the printout of the slides and all the knowledge base articles in there. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there any questions in the audience? Oh, at the back, of course, it's at the back.
Throw it.
Sit down the front.
Oh, it's up.
Great job, Jordy.
Thank you.
The question that I have is really about the utility of managed Apple accounts for end users, right? There are limitations on those accounts that make them it makes the whole thing a little bit more difficult. What's one thing that Apple could do to make managed Apple accounts more valuable to your workplace?
Probably let them download apps in the App Store. That's the biggest limitation. In the US, you can already expand the iCloud storage, so that's not really a thing, but here it's still not allowed. But I think the limit of downloading apps or even ringtones, for example, is a very big limitation there.
And have you run into issues where you want to deploy work applications that may have already been used for personal use?
Yep. And that is something that's actually a little bit better on Android, surprisingly. I still cannot push 2 applications of the same type to an iPhone. So we have run into that issue with Outlook or with Slack, and there's really not a good solution for that.
Have you run into any gotchas with managed Apple accounts for developer accounts where folks are, ADC members? Have there been any gotchas that you've run across there with regards to like renewing ADC memberships or anything like that?
Both for our customers and for us, we haven't really experienced any issues with the developer account itself. The only thing that we needed to reach out to Apple specifically for the account holder, because that role kind of blocked them from becoming a managed Apple account. They couldn't transfer, and then Apple pushed some buttons and it solved it.
Okay.
Great presentation, Jordy. Thank you very much for that. I was wondering if you could expand a little bit. You mentioned driving to some VIP users. There's some customers I've worked with who've had some real concerns around how some of their end users are going to respond to an upcoming move to federating the Apple accounts. So could you share some more of your experience about how you dealt with those objections for those users who were not happy about the idea of moving?
So once it's a decision that the organization makes, it comes down to communication, right? If it's something that you need to do to get somewhere, then you will need your users to be on board. If for any reason they do not want to make their current account managed, they have the option to keep as personal. That should pretty much resolve the issue. But it also comes down to communication, like explain why you're doing it, what the benefit is for the organization, and I think you will have somewhat of leeway with them. There was a good session this morning about change in the other hall, but yeah, it comes down to communication and just working with the end users so they do actually do whatever you need them to do.
Okay, we have another one in the room.
Yeah, thanks again, Jordy. Great presentation.
Thank you.
A scenario I've came across is when we've had a user that's left the business, and it really shouldn't happen, but it has, in that they've obtained that user's, say they had the same name, so joe.blogs, they've then obtained their email address. So I guess in that scenario, we would maybe hope for the best, leave it 30 days, and then, or is there anything else that we should do in that scenario to,
So specifically, if someone with the same name that kind of joins when somebody leaves during the 30 days, I think that's a very big edge case. I don't think Apple has thought that through. But once the old account is out, once it's automatically renamed, you can just create a new one. And what you're describing is one of the reasons why I haven't turned on the actual syncing yet, because I have a lot of accounts that are double and not the right naming conventions. So you might want to hold off of actually doing the directory sync with that. But other than that, you can just create the account however you want, and that should do the trick.
perfect, thank you.
Okay, there are two questions in the app, but Jordy's already answered them in the app, so if you want to see them, have a look.
I mean, if there are any further questions, feel free to grab me or send me a message. And for any Apple partner that's on the fence of doing this, whilst I can't talk about it publicly, I can certainly talk to you. So hit me up and we'll chat.
Again, thank you very much.
Thank you.